My sister and I are twins. The men we serve, Kieran and Killian, are twins as well. One day, out of sheer boredom, I whispered a mischievous idea to my sister. We should swap places for fun. That evening, she went to the east wing while I slipped into the west wing. When I noticed the familiar scar etched on the man's shoulder, a chill ran down my spine. The brothers had swapped too. The next morning, I stormed over to my sister. I can't believe those two actually played this twisted little game. It's sick. I'm done. Are you? She shrugged. Then I'm done too. Our attempt to escape backfired. We got caught. Kieran slammed me against the wall, his voice low and dangerous. Are you tired of me and curious about my brother, or are you just looking for a thrill and want all four of us involved? 16 years ago, the capital welcomed two sets of twins. In the Harper family, the wealthiest merchants in the city, my sister Hailey and I, Hannah, were born. Our mother had been a concubine, and she died giving birth to us. To curry favor with the nobility, the Harpers claimed we were daughters of the legitimate wife. They arranged our betrothal to the twin sons of the Grand Tutor, a match the entire city hailed as perfect. Fate, however, had other plans. After attending a lantern festival, we returned home to find our house gone. The Harpers had declared bankruptcy and fled to the countryside, escaping creditors. Before we could even taste freedom, we were sold to a brothel. That same night, we were rescued by a confidant of the Grand Tutor and sent to his mansion as a favor. With our family gone, the betrothal naturally fell apart. From then on, I was paired with Kieran, the elder twin, and my sister with Killian, the younger. Though we had fine clothes and food, we held no real status. The brothers were often busy, leaving my sister and me to enjoy the mansion in our own way. I hear the Duke of Protection's eldest daughter won't marry anyone but Kieran, my sister murmured. I heard Killian is set to wed the fifth princess and become a prince consort, I replied. We fell silent, pondering our unusual situation. After nearly 2 years living nameless at the estate, boredom finally forced me to speak. 2 years. I'm tired of this. You? Bored too, she admitted. Want to swap? Sure, she agreed. That night, we switched wings. Our resemblance is uncanny. Even we sometimes confuse ourselves. Kieran and Killian are just as identical. To tell them apart, Kieran favors dark clothes while Killian wears lighter shades. Kieran, the deputy commander of the Imperial Guard, exudes danger. Killian, a censor, has the calm, refined air of a scholar. In our private jokes, I call my sisters that scholar, and she calls mine that warrior. Seeing the familiar face in an unfamiliar outfit was thrilling. Sir, that outfit suits you, I complimented. The man lifted his gaze from his desk. His expression was cold, almost piercing. I froze, wondering if he'd realized the swap. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. You like light colors, don't you? Yes, I stammered, forgetting Killian usually wore light tones. My attempt to disguise myself had failed. Kieran set his book aside, drew me close, and lightly traced a finger along my hair and cheek. When we were first betrothed, my brother drew you, and I drew Hannah. Yet somehow we ended up this way. I always thought it fortune, but sometimes I wonder if heaven will reclaim it. His words were smooth, intoxicating. Killian really had a way with words. I leaned in, returning his gaze. No, it's my fortune, I whispered. The moment shifted. He became rough, far more forceful than I had expected. I struggled, but his strength overwhelmed me. The gentle scholar image vanished, replaced by something raw and dangerous. I tried to push him away, realizing with horror that my slip of daring play had led to a terrifying reality. When my hands brushed a familiar scar, everything clicked. This wasn't Killian. You're... Yes, he sneered. I'm Kieran. Surprised, Hannah? By then, it was too late for explanations. His roughness consumed us, leaving only the bitter truth. The swap had been discovered long before I even realized it. The next morning, I woke to the harsh sunlight streaming through the window, almost noon, and found the man beside me long gone. My body ached as though I'd been torn apart, and bruises marred every visible patch of skin. My sister's situation wasn't any better. We spent the afternoon venting our frustration at the twins. I can't believe they actually played this disgusting swap game, I said. I'm done. You? She pressed her hands against her abdomen and nodded. Done as well. No time like the present. We leave today, I decided. waiting until their weddings would leave us trapped. Do you know where Killian keeps his money? I asked. I do, she replied. We returned to our respective wings to pack, and I instructed her firmly. Take plenty. Though we'd never known hardship, we needed enough resources to travel safely. Kieran kept valuables in his study, stashing bank notes in a box on his desk. I left a brief note to appear considerate, but took most of the money, along with much of the jewelry from my room. Kieran's gifts, pearls and trinkets, were more valuable than cash. I packed only essentials and undergarments, leaving behind the cumbersome, luxurious clothing, but took 2 rough cotton outfits from the cook to wear during travel. When my sister finished packing, we discreetly pushed our bundles through the dog hole in the back courtyard and slipped out the front gate. The hole was too small for us to crawl through, and scaling the wall would have drawn attention. The maids and guards followed closely. We're just taking a walk. You don't need to follow, I said. But the young masters instructed. A maid began. I cut her off sharply. Weren't we also told to obey their orders? Finally, they retreated, and we retrieved our bundles, changing into our rough travel clothes in a hidden spot. My sister hesitated. Aren't we too obvious? Relax. Today's the Duke of Protection's birthday. He won't miss the chance to pair his daughter with Kieran. Even if Killian isn't busy with the banquet, he's a scholar. He can't stop us, I said. Despite my planning, she muttered, our Killian isn't just a scholar. We hired a modest carriage and left the city quietly. Everything was going smoothly until a familiar voice called out at the city gate. Stop the carriage. Everyone out. Why wasn't Kieran at the palace? Why was he here? The driver, a young servant, had been briefed. Sir, my sisters are seriously ill. It would be inconvenient for them to greet you. Kieran lifted the carriage curtain, suspicion clear. Quick on his feet, the servant added. They have tuberculosis, highly contagious. The doctor said to remove them from the city for their safety and yours. My sister and I coughed violently in unison, and finally Kieran lowered the curtain, waving the servant on. I peeked back, noticing him still staring, and hurriedly instructed the driver to move faster. Thankfully, he did not pursue. In Harmony City, the sisters quickly made their mark. One of them purchased a brothel, freed all the women forced into it, and recruited striking male performers. Business boomed overnight. Yet their personal lives were chaotic. Every day, they spent in the 3rd-floor private room, drinking and entertaining male performers. Their moods were unpredictable, memories unreliable. What was remembered one day might be forgotten the next. Only the most attractive performers knew the secret. The lady was actually 2 identical women. Tomorrow is my shopping day, one sister said. The silk shop has luminous brocade. Want me to get you some? Of course. Expensive or not, if it's pretty we take it, the other replied. Later, a familiar figure appeared at the bridge, a beggar calling out the name Hailey. It took several minutes and wiping away grime to recognize him as Richard Harper, their biological father, the man who had abandoned them as infants. I shook him off. Mistaken identity. I'm an orphan, I said, walking on, though I added, my name's Hannah. That night, he would vanish from their lives forever. In the evenings, I lounged with a male performer, sipping liquor and teasing, better to be served than to serve. My sister, eating grapes in another performer's arms, joked about missing her warrior, and I caught myself thinking about Kieran. 6 months had passed since our arrival in Harmony City, yet Kieran's stare at the city gate still haunted me. Did he recognize us that day? If he had, why let us go so easily? To him and his brother, we were mere playthings, destined to be married off to noble families. We never even had the status of concubines. A report interrupted my thoughts. 2 handsome male performers arrived. They insist on being seen before negotiating a price. Twins? I asked, sitting up straight. I had searched for twins for months, and now, by chance, they appeared at our door. Something felt off. We told them to wait in the hall and hid, but the door burst open. Waiting for you to escape? 2 identical men stood there, one in moon-white brocade, the other in black. My bodyguards lay defeated around them. I couldn't compete with his martial arts, my servant admitted. I waved the rest away and staged an emotional reunion with the man in black, tears flowing. Kieran, you're here. I missed you so much, I said. The man awkwardly corrected me. Sister-in-law, I'm Killian. I recalibrated and threw myself into the arms of the man in moon-white brocade. Kieran, you're here. I've missed you. He held me tight, finishing my sentences. The last 6 months of indulgence with performers were revealed in contrast to his genuine worry and weight loss. "Did you believe it all?" I asked. "I believe it," he murmured, pressing close. His body stiffened suddenly as his gaze fell on the performer who had held me. I tossed a pouch of money to explain away the disheveled man. Only then did Kieran and Killian's expression soften. My sister, safely in Killian's arms, appeared even more indulgent than I did. While holding my sister close, Killian turned on Kieran with a sharp edge. "Brother-in-law, I told you, you weren't enough. You couldn't keep her heart, so she ran away with Hailey." "Brother-in-law?" I blinked in surprise, startled by the unusual address. Killian explained, voice low but firm. "Kieran deliberately let you leave the city and concealed your whereabouts, separating me from Hailey. I've cut off our brotherhood. From now on, I follow Hannah's lead in how to address him." He shot Kieran a few more resentful glances before taking my sister to another room. Now it was just Kieran and me. He kept his head down, silent, his expression a mix of guilt and frustration. His eyes searched mine repeatedly, as if he wanted to speak but stopped himself. Finally, I broke the silence. "How did you recognize us that day?" I had thought my plan was flawless. Kieran chuckled softly. "We shared a bed for 2 years. I've heard every sound you make. The moment you coughed, I knew it was you. So it had been the cough that gave me away. And yet you let me go?" I asked. His smile was bitter. "If you went to such lengths to escape, what right do I have to deny you freedom? I only worried you'd be hungry or cold after leaving the estate, that you hadn't taken enough money." No wonder he always kept the cash box on his desk. He was preparing for this possibility all along. "You knew I was in Harmony City?" "Yes." He reached for my hand but paused, as if recalling something. "The first time you exchanged a banknote for silver, your location was exposed. But even without that, my people were always following. Otherwise, how could 2 young women travel safely from the capital to Harmony City?" I swallowed, realizing he must have known about my indulgent life with the performers. Then why hide our whereabouts from Killian? Kieran rolled his eyes in rare irritation. That fool returned home every day, distraught that Hailey was gone. He blamed me for not guarding the gate, for not keeping your heart, for your supposed indifference. That's why he was separated from Hailey. His gaze softened, voice quiet, almost to himself. "You didn't stop liking me." He quickly recovered and continued. "You wanted freedom, so I erased every trace of your journey south." Killian searched for 6 months and found nothing. I had never expected this stoic, cold-faced warrior to be so thorough and protective. My grip on his hand tightened unconsciously. "You said you'd give me freedom. Why come at all?" His head dipped, evasive. "I didn't want to. But Killian cried and threatened suicide every day until I got fed up and brought him here. Even while confessing, he remained stubborn. Then send Killian back to the capital." "You don't miss me anyway," I teased, pretending to turn away. But he caught me instantly. "I do. I've missed you terribly. Even if Killian really harmed himself, I wouldn't have brought him if it weren't for you." He buried his face in my neck, looking genuinely anguished. "If I don't have you, what reason is there to return to the capital?" I had to address the inevitable. "Doesn't the Duke of Protection's daughter still wait for you in the capital?" Kieran paused, then laughed with relief. "So that's why you ran away. I wondered why you couldn't possibly dislike me. That woman claims she will only marry you." "That doesn't concern me, I never agreed to it," he said. "I'm bound only by the marriage contract." "But does the Grand Tutor still honor it?" I asked, remembering that the contract had been between his family and the Harpers, who were now long gone. "Whether he does or not, you'll find out when you return to the capital." I pursed my lips, curious. My sister and I look alike and wear nearly identical clothes. How could you tell me apart so easily? Kieran's frown softened. "You glow. The person you love always shines in a crowd. Isn't it the same when you look at me?" I nodded emphatically. "Of course." He hesitated, then pinned me gently against the wall, eyes intense, teeth gritted. Finally, he asked, "That night in the West Wing, was it because you were bored of me and wanted to try my brother, or were you seeking thrills for all 4 of us?" I gave him a sly smile. "Guess." That night had been a test. Every inch of the estate had ears. My sister, and I wanted to see what we meant to Kieran and Killian. If we were mere playthings, nothing would have changed. The positions in the wings would have stayed the same. Before I could dwell on it, my sister stormed back angrily, Killian chasing after her. I swear it was the fifth princess who spread the rumor that I was to marry her. I never said a word. Brother-in-law helped me explain. As soon as we returned to the capital, the Grand Tutor summoned Kieran and Killian. By dinner time, they still hadn't come back. My sister and I tried to get information, but no one knew anything, so we went searching ourselves. We found them kneeling before the ancestral tablets, being scolded fiercely. It was clearly on our account. We were about to slip away quietly, but the Grand Tutor's wife called us over. Daughters-in-law, come in.
Don't just stand there, she said.
Daughters-in-law. We exchanged confused glances, unsure how to respond. She personally took our hands, leading us into the hall. It's cold and damp outside. Standing here too long could make you sick. Maids brought shawls for us, and she added, I didn't prepare meeting gifts, but I have these jade bracelets. They were passed down from my mother-in-law, meant for daughters-in-law. She smiled softly. Fortunately, I had twins. Otherwise, fairness would have been impossible. I hesitated. So, the betrothal with the Harper family is still recognized? The Grand Tutor, hearing this, quickly responded from the inner hall where he was scolding the brothers. Why wouldn't it be? My sister whispered, but the Harpers are gone. Even if the family is gone, our daughters-in-law are still here. How could the betrothal not stand? The Grand Tutor said firmly. I am the Grand Tutor, teacher to the Emperor. It takes backbone to uphold principles in the court. I glanced at the brothers kneeling before the ancestral shrine, realizing why they were being punished. The Grand Tutor's expression darkened. He lifted his cane, striking them both. 2 years, keeping your fiancés in the mansion with no name or title. This is how gentlemen behave. His wife added. Exactly. They drove our daughters-in-law to run away. They deserve this. I wanted to intervene, but she pulled me aside gently to ask questions, while the Grand Tutor continued to lecture the brothers for their shamelessness and failure to uphold the trust of both their ancestors and their fiancés. I couldn't deny he was right. Extra chapter, Kieran's perspective. After the Harpers went bankrupt, our fiancés were sold to a brothel by creditors. Though we had never met them, they were still to be our wives. How could they endure such humiliation? That thought alone enraged me. The creditor was foolish. If he had delivered them to us, he'd have received far more than a few thousand taels. I arranged for someone to deal with the blind creditor and retrieve the sisters, but my useless uncle beat me to it, sending them to the mansion first. The moment I saw Hannah, I fell in love. Killian immediately took a liking to Hailey. Before meeting Hannah, I didn't care which fiancé I received, but after seeing her, no one else could suffice. Grandfather had us draw lots. I drew Hailey, Killian drew Hannah, meaning I had fallen for my brother's fiancé, and he had fallen for mine. If grandfather found out, we'd be beaten to death. So we agreed to postpone the wedding but secretly create facts behind grandfather's back. Afterward, I realized my recklessness. If grandfather discovered we'd slept with each other's fiancés, mother might demand a third child, making that child the only heir. We had no choice but to hide our actions. Then the sisters said they were bored of us and wanted to swap for excitement. Killian and I argued fiercely. I suspected he'd seduced my wife. He accused me of doing the same. But neither of us blamed our wives. That night, we swapped wings. Hannah complimented my appearance despite thinking I was Killian. She had recognized me, even under my brother's disguise. I knew the truth. No matter what clothes I wore, she loved the soul beneath the face. When she was delirious beneath me, she instinctively called my name. I realized she only had me in her heart, but could she accept Killian as well? How could her heart hold 2 men? On the day of the birthday banquet, I positioned myself at the city gate to avoid interference from that wild woman from the Duke of Protection's family. Yet I could do nothing as Hannah chose freedom over me. Meanwhile, Killian wailed every day, claiming his wife had abducted mine and blaming himself for failing to keep her heart. Extra chapter, Hailey's perspective. My sister declared she no longer wanted to be with Kieran. If she was done, I had to follow. Though I longed to stay with Killian, I had to go with her. 6 months passed, and my sister showed no intention of returning. I occasionally mentioned Kieran in front of her, afraid she might forget him, but she never did. Still, I missed Killian terribly. Secretly, I wrote to him, revealing our location and asking him to bring Kieran quickly to retrieve us and bring us home. Extra chapter, Killian's perspective. I hated my brother. No, I hated my brother-in-law. I was done with our brotherhood.